Welcome to the bunker.
Preppers, survivalists, off-gridders, homesteaders, and the like. Welcome to Top's Bunker, a podcast for preppers. Email shtf@topsbunker.com, website topsbunker.com, YouTube, Top's Bunker podcast channel, and of course, X and Instagram. Please check the show notes in your podcast player for a link to help support the show. There you'll find valuable products and gear and extra info on this episode. We'd love for you to go over to the Top's Bunker podcast channel on YouTube and click the subscribe button. We're trying to grow that channel and could really use your support. You can listen to all the podcast episodes and check out a few videos as well. No membership is required, 100% free. All we ask is that you subscribe to the channel. Also, please visit and join Top's Bunker Facebook group. You'll love the interaction with other preppers and like-minded folks. I want to thank y'all for joining us. We got a great show for you. We have a very special guest with us tonight. He's built a fairly large name for himself in the preparedness world. Joe Dolio is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. During his service, he deployed as a member of the Close Protection Team in trouble spots in the 2nd Marine Division area of operations. He also served on security augmentation teams for U.S. naval facilities. During his service, he attended the notorious Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Training Center for both the winter and summer survival courses. After active service, Joe worked in personal protection and corporate investigations, protecting executives at Stroh's Brewing and the Amway Corporation, and serving as an organized retail crime investigator for Target Corporation, Lord & Taylor, Kmart Sears Holdings, and the Bon Bon stores. During his time, Joe became a certified fraud examiner and a certified forensic interviewer. Joe represented the Target Corporation on the Detroit Metro Identity Fraud Task Force with federal, state, and local law enforcement partners. During the global war on terror, Joe and another United States Marine Corps veteran formed a private military contractor security company to support operations and businesses in hostile zones as a way to continue serving. Joe is a Blackwater U.S. Training Center alum and is currently working as an independent contractor in the protection field. He's a certified second-degree black belt instructor in the Korean martial art of Tang Soo Do, as well as being a level 5 black belt instructor in Krav Maga. And of course, what Joe Dolio is most known for in the preparedness world is being the creator and author of the very popular book series, Tactical Wisdom. The Tactical Wisdom series are 5 books designed to serve as field manuals. This book series is a must-have, game-changing force multiplier for every survival situation and for every prepper survivalist. We are very excited and honored to have Joe with us tonight. Mr. Joe Dolio, we thank you for your dedication and service to our country. Brother, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. I'm glad to be here. Man, y'all have better background investigators than the federal government. That was quite a detailed list. But now, you know what? I figured that, I just figured we could take some of that experience and share it with others, and maybe it'll help somebody down the road. And so just to kind of tack on to the end of that, we're continuing that mission by running Camp Ponderosa up here in Northwest Montana, which is a camp where we serve veterans by giving them a place to kind of reconnect and regroup. But at the same time, we teach classes based upon my books, and NC Scout comes out here and teaches classes, and a few other guys, all veterans. And we try to share our knowledge with folks in the preparedness world to get them a little more ready for rough times ahead, whatever they may be, whether it's a natural disaster or whatever else comes down the road. And it's a great way to get people to connect and network. So pretty happy with that.
Yeah, we're excited about, what you've brought to, the table in the preparedness world, your books, the training that you and NC Scout do. I've been following for quite some time. I need to get in there and get some training from you guys, but, that's in the future. But you guys have changed the whole landscape, I feel, of the preparedness world with, NC Scout's book, The Guerrilla's Guide to Battlefield Radio, which we talk about that a lot. And your Tactical Wisdom series is written, in my opinion, it's written perfectly for somebody who doesn't know a lot or doesn't know anything about, the preparedness world, is kind of like a primer or, a field manual for them to step into and do the right things when it, comes down to doing it.
That was exactly my intent, was to take all of the military field manuals that are so filled with bureaucratic nonsense and jargon and break it down to something that the average guy can use to build a functional gear list or learn just the basic skill that's in there, rather than all of the bureaucratic nonsense in it. And we didn't just draw from American manuals. We pulled them from the British, the Australians, some of the older Rhodesian stuff, and a lot of really different sources. The Canadians, ironically, have some pretty good manuals on fieldcraft and land navigation, but we took all of the bureaucratic out of it and broke it down to guides that basic people can use. And it's been a big success. And then taking it and making classes out of it was a natural progression. My writing style is where when I sit down to write a chapter, I'm like, okay, if I was going to teach a group of people in this room right now how to do this, what would I say? And then I just start typing exactly like I would speak. And it comes across as a pretty good guide, I think.
Yeah, it's easily understandable. Just in your writing style and just breaking it down. It's not really breaking it down, crayon style, but it's down there to the level where people who don't have a clue can actually grasp that concept. And military manuals are written, and supposedly for the 8th grade level reader, but a lot of times,
are they really?
Yeah, the people who write them are colonels and majors and stuff, and they just. A lot of the concepts get, way above.
Buddy, you set yourself up for a joke, right?
Oh no,
here we go.
Voice. He's here.
Okay.
I can read so gooder.
I can read gooder than you. But anyways,
it's more gooder.
Yes.
It's more gooder. Oh, well, that's my 8th grade level of education there. But yeah, you really break it down to where it's easy to understand, and I do appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate that. And we also took out a lot of the nonsense that doesn't apply to the civilian world. For example, like when you tell people about, you get somebody who's injured in your group. Well, you don't call for a medevac. If guys who are spending their time learning a 9-line, it's somewhat silly in our world because we're never going to call a rescue helicopter in unless maybe we're in a search and rescue group. And that's an entirely different skill set. So why spend our time doing that? And I had a guy during a class here, the first one we held out here, and we were talking about taking a security pause, that SIL, stop, look, listen, smell. And when I was given my way of doing it, he goes, well, in field manual X, whatever it was, he goes, it says to always begin from the front of the line or always begin from the back of the line rather than the front of the line. And I was like, well, there's times to go by a manual and times to use common sense. For example, you're laying right next to a road. Do I really want you to stand up first? And the guy was like, oh, I guess that makes sense. So the reason why I tell that story is that the purpose isn't to get you to be able to memorize some military manual that doesn't really apply to your life. We're not here to fight a war. We're here to ultimately survive and evade contact with anyone who might be hostile with us. So why would I want to do things exactly the same way a military force does? I might want the skill, but I'm going to want to do it in a different way where I'm not inviting more conflict, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. I was never in the military, so I have no military training whatsoever. It would be alien to me
right
at this point in my life. So manuals like yours are exactly what someone like me needs to have.
So I could sign you up for Fieldcraft this weekend then?
In Montana?
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, man.
Joe, I got a question for you there. So when you're writing or even when you're teaching, how much of your previous instructor isms, if you want to call it that, do you find kind of creep in? And do you ever find it difficult to delineate between teaching civilians with your military experience? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of folks who come into this with one of two unrealistic expectations. One is that they're going to be able to carry everything in the world that they want on their back, right? And that is just not the case. And the other thing is that a lot of them have this, I call it the Mad Max syndrome, right? They've watched so many movies that they think life in a collapse or disaster scenario is going to be one exciting gunfight after the other. And you got to kind of break their bubble of that and of the non-realism. Guys who've been in the military realize what they can carry, what they can't carry. And everybody else is like, but my bug out bag weighs 216 pounds and I'm planning on carrying it 20 miles a day. Okay, bro, that's not going to work. So, yeah, I think that does happen a lot.
Did you say 20 miles?
Yeah.
I can't walk 20 miles. Forget about walking with a backpack.
That's one of the things that I try to bust the bubble of on people a lot is everyone, because rucking has become a popular fitness activity, they think, and because it's done in the military, they think that 4 miles an hour, that 15-minute mile is a sustainable pace for carrying a load. Like if you're carrying 75 pounds in your pack and you're trucking down the road at 4 miles an hour, which is a 15-minute mile, that's what people go for fitness. You're not going to be in a condition to set up a camp at the end of the day, right? Or they think, well, that's my speed. I can do 20 miles in a day easy. No, you might be able to do 4 miles pretty quick, but you're going to start slowing down after that because that weight does get heavy. And so what we try to do is have them get out moving with their pack as much as they can during the class. And by the end of the class, you see them going, wow, I need to start dumping this stuff down. And to Jeremy's point specifically is when NC Scout and I do one of his scout courses, guys will start the week. They've got their rifle, their plate, their chest rig, and their backpack, and every piece of gear on the first day of class. On the second day of class, you'll see their backpack looks a little bit lighter, taking a few things out of their chest rig, right? By the end of the week, the guy's running out there with just his rifle and a spare magazine in his back pocket and nothing else because he's realized that all of that weight has to be carried. And they start streamlining their gear loadout for that very reason. We do the same thing here, like in winter survival. I'm like, hey, we're going to practice a water crossing, but you have to take your backpack with you because I want you to realize I can walk across a small stream with no problem. But when I got my pack on and there's moving water and there's ice and snow, it's a very, very different thing. And so guys who've been in the military have had that realistic experience, but civilians coming into the class haven't. So it's important for them to do that. So we kind of have to go to the lowest common denominator, but that's okay. We want everyone to get the skills.
Yeah, it comes to this. Today I was out working on the beehives, and man, I was tired, and got done with all that, and I went over to where the garden is, where my wife Rhonda was working, and I sat down under the umbrella and just kind of sat there, and man, I was tired. I was so exhausted that I didn't want to breathe. I could barely breathe. That's how tired I was, and I'm thinking, let's use the zombie apocalypse scenario, right? If I was being chased by zombies, and I'm not talking about the slow zombies from like The Walking Dead, I'm talking about the fast ones from like World War Z, okay? I would be dead. That's it. End of story. They'd catch me in 2 seconds.
Right on. And, what's funny is World War Z really opened us up to the fact that we've been training wrong our whole lives. Those zombies are fast.
That's why rule number 1 is cardio, cardio, cardio.
Yeah. You know what? I am so guilty of that. So the first time I went down to NC Scout's place for a scout course, he was like, "You've been training to come?" I'm like, "Yeah, man. I'm doing 6 miles a day, rucking with my pack." And he was like, "Yeah, man, but Michigan is flat, and where I live, it's uphill in every direction." I was like, "Oh, come on, it can't be that bad." On day 2 at his place, I almost tapped out because I was like, "Man, it is uphill in every direction at this guy's property." And that is a huge, huge gap in preparedness. And I'm guilty of it too, that we think we're going to be able to do all this stuff, but then we get out moving with our gear and we're like, man, this sucks. And cardio is a great way to start, man.
What do you guys call that ridge up there? Is it Heart Attack Ridge or what is it?
Every service has their own. And the one in the Marine Corps is generally called Bitch Ridge, just for fun, and Mount MFer. So we have a lot of great names for the places we have to climb. Yeah,
at Scout's place, does he have one called Heart Attack Ridge or?
Yeah. That's the hill where we all set up our insurgent camp that you have to attack. Because I'll be honest, we've had at least 3 people nearly have a heart attack assaulting up that hill.
He does his stuff out of the UARI, doesn't he?
What's that?
He does his stuff out of the UARI. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because when we drop our students off every contract, that's where they have to maneuver through.
Man, we've had a couple times where we've been like, we have to call a pause to remove somebody from the field, but we'll get right back at it. And I'll tell you, I had a success story. One guy came up to us one day and he says, "Hey, listen, I have to tap out because last night I was really struggling during the assault, but I'm going to come back in 6 months and I'm going to take that hill." And this guy went home, started training, got back into weights, got back into cardio. And when he came back 6 months later, he was literally unrecognizable. So it was outstanding. And for those of you on Twitter, it's Anti-Pattern on Twitter. And the guy, he actually talks about that journey, that he appreciated the fact that he hit that wall, right? He came out here, he tried it, and he was like, wow, this is way harder than I thought. It's really easy to be a tough guy on a keyboard. It's another thing entirely to actually get out and do it. And I think that's important that you get out there and challenge yourself.
Yeah, it's those humbling events like that really, gives you a baseline of where you need to be. Everybody thinks they're a little better than what they are when it comes down to it.
100%. We all give ourselves more credit than we probably should. And even now, I've been out here in the altitude now for a year, and I feel that just that alone has helped my cardio enough. But last week, me and another guy were out here. We threw on packs and we went for a couple miles. And I was like, somebody has let the winter keep him from doing this. And that somebody looks a lot like me. So it's a constant challenge. You have to continue to work at it.
Yeah, we harp on that bug out bag situation you were talking about earlier, where you have 200 pounds of shit in it and you can't carry it. So we do touch on that quite often and try to get people, to get out and do the right things. And we've had some success stories, kind of like you guys have, with people losing weight, getting back in the gym, getting fit, and getting able where they're fight ready. They're able to carry their pack, the functional fitness that they need, and some agility and stuff that's just a lot of people overlook, especially with age. I know, sometimes it's harder when I bend over to pick things up at my age, but I'm not. I have to realize I'm not 18 anymore.
Yeah. So. Weird noises come out of me when I bend over to pick stuff up.
Weird noises, yeah.
Right, you stand back up and things creak. You're like, oh, that doesn't sound like that. And that's why too, at a lot of these things, like when I'm doing, we do the fieldcraft class, we do an entire day of land navigation. And then people think, well, for land navigation day, I just need my compass, right? No, I need you to bring your pack, because when you go out and you're going to start walking in my rough country here, following the course I laid, you need to be carrying the same stuff you think you're going to be carrying when the lights go out, right? Because it's a test, and to remind you to do exactly that, teach you that lesson that maybe I'm carrying too much stuff, and that this is going to be a lot harder than it needs to be. So I'll send you out there on a 2-mile land navigation course. You got to wear your pack. You got to come all the way in. I do make sure they take a radio just in case they have a problem. And out here, I have wildlife that might eat you. So I want you to make sure you have a radio so you can call me and I can come in and videotape it.
Like that cat you put on X yesterday?
Yeah, man. We were just driving down the road and here's this mountain lion, just gorgeous, just sitting there drinking from the ditch. And I was like, let's go get a picture. And my genius car partner decided he was going to get out and go take a look at it. And for the record, there was some hilarious dash cam video of that. So you got to cross the center line of the road, and the mountain lion looks at him, and he turns around and ran in one direction, and the cat ran in the other. So, man, this is how guys die, and I'm going to have this on videotape, and it's going to be hilarious. I'm going to make a lot of money off this videotape. But no, it's actually good, and that's why we make everyone carry a radio out here. And then I have them do the night. I have them do the same thing again at night, and they're like, "Well, do I have to carry my pack at night?" Absolutely. You need to learn that trying to navigate and move through rough country with a pack on in the night is hard. It goes to that point Jeremy brought up earlier. Is it different, having different experience levels? And that's what it's for, right? I need to give you as much experience in a short 3-day window as I can. And that means making it a little hard.
Okay. So what would be a scenario where, let's say, we're not moving all of our stuff. We're not taking the entire group and moving to like a bug out location. Hopefully we'll have cars, vehicles, trucks for that type of thing. What would be the scenario that would be taking place realistically that would where we would need to go and do a light ruck type of a thing?
So let's look at some of the most recent examples of where we've needed to do this. North Carolina and Hawaii, right? Hawaii, we had the forest fire, and in North Carolina, we had the hurricane. When the conditions are so bad, and actually here in Montana, after the windstorms, conditions are so bad that law enforcement's not going to be able to get out to your area, and fire rescue might not be able to get out to your area. We are going to need to patrol our own neighborhoods. So we're going to have to get out with what I would call like a 48-hour pack. So probably about 30 pounds of stuff on our back, just in case we need it, like a first aid kit, shelter to put up for somebody who's injured, a sleeping bag in case we get caught out and have to stay out all night, water purification, the bare basics. That's going to cost you about 30 pounds, but you might need that to move back and forth. Or you say, hey, you guys are going to stay here at the house. I'm going to go down to the church distribution center where they got food. I might have no weight when I leave, but I got to carry some of that stuff back. So these are reasons to practice and train for getting in there. And I think that as these things go on, and some of the stuff we saw in Hawaii specifically was the police setting up roadblocks and telling people they couldn't go back to their own home to get their own things or to check on their own property. And I'm very much against that. I'm not trying to be political about this, but if I want to go and check on my own home, I ought to be able to. And I ought to know a few ways that I can do that don't involve going through anybody else's checkpoint, right? So I need to have that ability. Yeah, I need to have that ability to move overland to my own property if I have to, or to move from one place to another, even temporarily. So there's lots of reasons why you need to have that ability to carry a pack.
Okay, so what you're saying is that when people come there, they're thinking on a whole different mindset. They're bringing the house, they're bringing everything, including the kitchen sink, in their pack. And what you're going to do is you're going to train them how not to do that. You're going to train them to have a completely different mindset.
Absolutely. And in my books, I point that out. Everyone else has this mindset of buying or storing enough gear to last them forever. How about instead of trying to store a whole bunch of food, you learn how to produce your own food, how to grow food, how to find natural foods, how to hunt and fish to develop your own food rather than storing enough food. And on water, it's even worse because you will never be able to store enough water for long enough to get you through a 1 year period, because that water is going to begin to get stagnant, right? So instead, you work on the ability to find water and purify water. And that requires you to carry less stuff, but also carry the right stuff.
Yeah. And, water filtration and purification, the gear itself is very lightweight. It's very easy to carry. It's usually very small, can fit right in your pack easily.
Well, this is one of the things that, like, in the global war on terror, as a military, we got away from carrying water on our body, right? Vietnam era and before, everyone always carried canteens. When we got into the GWAT and we were driving our up-armored vehicles everywhere, we'd get to maybe within a mile of a target, hump in on foot, hump back out. Everybody would carry water bottles instead of carrying a canteen. But you don't know how long you're going to be out. And when we get in, we talk about civilians whether it's a disaster like North Carolina or in a without rule of law situation like we saw in places like the Balkans or Haiti. You're not going to have the vehicle to go back to. You're not going to have a logistics line that's going to bring you 10 cases of water. You're going to have to carry the water you're going to need to drink and eat and clean yourself, and then replenish that yourself. You're not going to carry cases of water or get to a resupply point. You're going to need to carry it and have the ability to produce it on your own. And one of the things that people overlook is like, well, I bring just enough water to drink. I'll be able to wash my hands in untreated water. Well, if you wash your hands in untreated water and then you eat, what did you just do? Contaminated yourself. So you got to be thinking about that.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yep.
I guess that's a long way around to say you have to have the ability to carry water and clean that water.
I mean, I'm a big fan of the gear. I'm a big fan of not carrying heavy water. Water is very heavy. What is it? 6, 7, 8 pounds a gallon. I mean, it's heavy. I went down to Walmart today to pick up some stuff for the garden. And while I was there, I refilled one of those 5-gallon water jugs that you use, because we have a machine at the house. You put it on there and it gives you cold and hot water. And, it only costs like $2 or $3 to fill it. That 5-gallon jug of water is heavy.
40 pounds.
Absolutely. It always is. That's why you have to carry that ability to purify it. I did a class that was a week long, and we had to carry all of our water for a week. And it really sucked on day 1 and 2. But when you got to day 3 and you started to go through your water, the load got a little bit lighter. But people always underestimate the amount of water they're going to need. I stepped off at 72 pounds in a ruck and another 30-something on my belt kit. And it sucked. We did not go far, but we did have to live out of the packs for a week. So
I also think that some of that has to do with a romanticized idea by the general civilian populace and even some low-density skill sets within the military about how much we actually carry into the field, and when we actually go pick a fight with someone, how much we're legitimately carrying. Because I can remember patrolling in Iraq, and if we ever did get into a gunfight and we were on foot, we found a place to secure our packs. If you're in the woods, we would actually have a point where you stash your packs.
Yep.
And have somebody securing them. So I think a lot of people have this, misconception, but honestly, if you're getting into a gunfight with a standard load, you're talking 7 magazines, plus water and all the other crap that you got to carry into a fight anyways. And back then, I was probably 150, 160, but I was carrying in on foot patrols probably, I'd say, a cumulative total of between 95 and 100 pounds additional on top of me. So, yeah, I think there's probably a big misconception on how that actually works.
Yeah, look, the movies and TV shows, they don't do us justice in any way, shape, or form, people like us, because they never, ever, ever show anybody really drinking water. Or even talking about it. Unless it's part of the scene, they don't talk about it. You don't see them, you see it happening. I was watching a TV series, which I really like. It's called the Lioness, and I think it's a Taylor Sheridan series. Really good. And it's got all the realities. The actual realities of battle and survival and stuff like that. And you see them drinking. Drinking is part of their preps. It's part of their gear. Drinking water.
They alluded to it in Black Hawk Down when they first made hey, you're not going to need that water. We're not going to be out there that long. And then in the middle of the fight, they're all begging for water, right? And I want to comment on Jeremy's point. The first lesson you learn in the first field exercise we do in my fieldcraft class is exactly that: how to stash your pack. We go out, we take our pack off, and you practice hiding it. And I have another team come through and look for it. Because, in the military, we'd all dump them. And just like you said, Jeremy, there'd be 2 guys who were assigned to overwatch that while we went on and handled business, came back. Well, in the civilian world and in the preparedness world, we're not going to be able to spare 2 guys to watch the packs.
Exactly.
So we have to be really good at hiding our pack. And the truth is, the average person who doesn't know there's a backpack hidden in the woods there is never going to find your pack. But you have to practice that skill. And then we also practice in the field during my team movement thing. After you practice individual movement, we practice how to, in the field, put on and take off your backpack. I know that seems like something so basic that we all know, but there is a way to do it when we're out there, right? Taking it off, sliding it off one arm, setting it down, and then putting it on properly. So really, really important part.
Joe, can you talk about your Technical Wisdom series, your books? Just give us a little taste of each book you have there.
Sure. I'll give a little blurb on each one. So book 1, Tactical Wisdom 1, is the baseline training manual. And what that is a basic level of gear and supplies you need to get started in preparedness. There's chapters on building a get-home bag, an everyday carry or patrol bag, how to fill up your full ruck, and how to just build these basic things, how to build a vehicle kit, how to build a first aid kit, some fitness advice on how to get started on the road to fitness if you've never done it, and some very basic training exercises you can do. A couple of key features of all of my books is that every chapter begins with a Bible verse that pertains to what we're going to talk about. And a lot of folks don't know it, but the Bible is a preparedness manual. It tells you, like, for example, in Jeremiah, at one point, it tells you to gather up your belongings to leave the land, you who live under siege. That's God telling you need a bug out bag, right? Or a get home bag, at least. So the verse is tied to that. But at the end of every chapter is the most important part, and it's the training standards. And it gives you a list of bullet points for you to do, action steps to take to solidify everything you learned or prove that you know it to yourself. There might be questions, ask you to describe something, whatever. So there's that training standard at the end of the book. And that comes out of military manuals. It was the idea, but a lot of folks like it because it's concrete action steps I can take after I read this chapter to get more ready. We move into book 2, which is called Fieldcraft. And that's where we learn outdoor living and outdoor movement skills in a potentially hostile environment. I'm not thinking that we're going to get into gunfight after gunfight. What I'm thinking is we need to learn how to avoid contact with potentially dangerous people. That doesn't always mean attackers on the road like you see in all the fiction movies, but it means potentially sick people, folks who you just don't want to attach to you as another mouth to feed, or anyone who could potentially do you harm or take your supplies. So we talk about how to do individual movement like low crawl, high crawl, all that different kind of stuff, and how to move as a team, how to move as an individual, how to pick out and set up your campsite in a more secure method. For example, we all think of camping as a bunch of our tents set up in a circle around a big roaring campfire. But in a without rule of law society, we're going to need to be a little more safe than that, a little more secure. And it's going to look more like a military style overnight site where we're hiding our shelter and hiding our sleeping bag and all that. So we talk about that in there. There's a pretty good depiction of how to do land navigation in there, movement with a map and compass. I know it's popular right now in the preparedness world to have a cool guy GPS and know how to use it. But the reality is that if the power is really out, in a large chunk of the U.S., the GPS system will become unreliable in about 30 days because it needs ground stations for the satellites to know where they are. And that's going to start to shift, and you're also going to run out of batteries. But the Earth will always be a giant rock, so you'll be able to always use a map and compass. So we teach those skills pretty well in there, and a few other things just about living in the field and how to better prepare your gear to get out in the field, and some tips for being quiet and how to hide things and camouflage things. Book 3, Defensive Operations, talks about how to set up a security plan for a neighborhood, a farm, a camp like we have here, some sort of a bug out location, how to secure it and protect it from the zombies, the COVID horde or the bird flu horde or whatever it is that you're worried about, how to defend a small area against it and what sort of security operations we can undertake to protect it, whether it's setting up a checkpoint at the front of our neighborhood or running roadblocks out on a main highway or whatever it is, we teach that. And because I was in the military police, it's sort of MP school in a box. It's just a short version of how to run that. Book 4 is a little bit more spicy. It's called Scouting and Patrolling. And this is based off of an old classic manual from back in World War II by Rex Applegate, where they took people who didn't know anything about combat or potentially hazardous situations and taught them some skills on how to set up an observation post, how to run security patrols, recon patrols, things like that, to find out where potentially hostile people or refugees or anything you want to know about is. So that's what Scouting and Patrolling is about, how to get out and gather information. Book 5 is my first aid manual. And it differs from most first aid manuals in that it's not a modern one. A modern first aid manual tells you your job as a prepared citizen is to keep the person calm, call 911, and wait for the ambulance to get there. Well, what if the ambulance can't get there because there's a disaster, or they're not coming because we're in a collapse of society? We talk about how to do some 1800s type medicine. If somebody's got a broken arm and there's no hospital open and no ambulance coming, I might have to give them a shot of whiskey and give that arm a good jerk and splint it back into place, right? So we talk about some old school solutions to things, and I break down a lot of more complex first aid things in a pretty small package. And I've actually gotten a lot of compliments from emergency room doctors on this book. So I'm pretty excited about that one. I'm currently working on book 6, which is the Field Skills Manual, where we take a bunch of outdoor skills and we look at them from a tactical standpoint. We talk about how to use a saw, how to use an axe, all these different things that people take for granted, including how to throw an axe, by the way. That's kind of a cool skill. It's absolutely useless in real life, but it is fun. So it's in there.
Hey, now it depends on where you're from. I'm from Oklahoma. We know how to throw axes and tomahawks here. So
in all honesty, we're setting up a tomahawk throwing station right across from the gatehouse here at the camp. But anyway, it takes all those skills. Like, there's a lot of folks who say, hey, when things go bad, I'm going to get on my canoe and I'm going to go down the river. Okay, but have you really thought about that? Because a river is what we call a natural line of drift. There will be people drawn to that river, and you might want to move a little smartly along that river. So we'll talk about how to do that. And then that book will also have a lot of old school Boy Scout pioneering in there, right? How to build things with wood and rope that you might need, like how to build a raft, how to build a tripod to cook over a fire, how to build various things with just rope and paracord. So it's going to have a lot of neat stuff in it.
Yeah, that's going to be money right there. I look forward to that one. And something you said about the first aid manual. I'm in the middle of I teach TCCC out there right now, and I'm in the middle of a wilderness first aid class. I'm working on a degree on it or whatever, if you must know. But it's stuff that people. I mean, everybody's so geared to, hey, I can call the ambulance and they're going to come, within 10 minutes or whatever your local response time is, and everything's going to be fine. But, the wilderness medicine has really opened up my eyes, which, I knew these things, but open up my eyes, and hopefully will open up other people, because it's kind of a bougie thing out there now for people to do, to realize that you really don't have that response time when you're out there in the wilderness, you're up in the mountains, you're away, and, you're going to have to do the things that, would help that person or your loved ones or whoever, yourself maybe, survive. So, it's a perishable skill that's been lost over time for sure.
And you know what? That's it. I used to recommend everyone take a basic first aid class. I now recommend that everyone take a 16-hour wilderness first aid class, because that's more realistic for the type of environment. Even if I live in an urban area, but a disaster hits, I'm not getting an ambulance, because there are only so many ambulances and there are so many injured people. So I have to have a little bit higher standard of care than just pack it and wait, right? And so many people go through a military focused one where the training isn't that realistic, because they know the golden hour exists and we'll be able to get a helicopter to you within that first hour. That's not necessarily the case on the civilian side. So we need to be able to have a little bit more expanded first aid capability, and some training and exposure to it. The first time you go to splint a broken leg, or consider it, can't be when somebody's sitting in front of you with a broken leg. You have to have considered it and practiced it ahead of time. And wilderness first aid is a better course for that than basic first aid.
I'm enjoying those classes. I'm learning a lot from just, my history, the military history. I was in school and college once upon a time, looking at physical therapy, and did a lot of first aid and anatomy, physiology and stuff, and some pre-med classes. And it's kind of culminating all those things and open my eyes up to, there's a lot that goes into first aid besides putting a Band-Aid on somebody.
Absolutely. And like, if I called an ambulance right now, it's not going to get to my door where I live for at least 45 minutes to an hour. And then they're going to have a helicopter meet me to get me to a hospital. And fortunately, we have a helipad here, so we'll be good on that. But Life Flight can use our helipad anytime they want, and they do, because we're very rural. And like, if I'm out in the woods, there's no cell phone coverage for like 20 miles south of me and 15 miles north of me. So in that area, you're not getting help, right? You're going to have to figure that out and treat yourself. And that's why we really teach a lot of radio courses.
Joe, when you were writing your first book, what was the inspiration for it, and was it difficult to write? Like, what were the difficulties that you found in writing it?
Oh, that's a great question, man. My inspiration for writing it was, I wrote that in the middle of the COVID crisis, because it was looking like things were going to get bad. Like at the beginning of COVID, there was talk of roadblocks and checkpoints and all this stuff. And turns out most of that was BS, but there was some of that. And everyone was freaked out and everyone was worried. And I was like, what if I found a way to try and ease some people's minds by putting some info out that they can start on today? There was a big awakening amongst American society during COVID about preparedness. Before COVID, the preppers were the kooks. They were the crazy people. We even had shows about how crazy they were. During COVID, everyone was like, hey, those guys might not be wrong, right? So the biggest challenge for me for it, though, was to not assume everyone knew the same things that I did or that anyone else would know. Like a basic veteran knowing what needs to go in his backpack, right, to live in the field. Having to overcome that bias I had that everyone knows what to put in a backpack. It's not true. So I had to break it down to the simplest and lowest level, but also make it something that guys like us who have a little bit of experience are like, oh yeah, this is just a cool refresher review manual for me. Trying to bridge that gap between the two. And for me, it was also limiting myself to not want to put out a 900-page book that nobody would carry. And I'm glad you asked this question because if you notice, my books are all the same size, that 5x8. They're meant to be a book you can stick in your backpack and actually take with you out in the woods or out to wherever you guys practice and train and use it as a reference manual. I didn't want to make them big and large and bulky so that you couldn't take them around. I wanted to break them into smaller, easy to digest chunks that you could get out there. So probably for me, the biggest challenge was making it readable and basic, and then also keeping it in a small, portable size.
Oh, yeah. Very, very tactical. Exactly what a survivalist would need.
Absolutely. And I'll give a little teaser here. This is not 100% certain, but I am working with Wargate Books to put out a combined version of books 2 and 4 in a ring-bound manual with some sturdier paper and a waterproof cover that you'd be able to take those two out in the field together and actually lay it out on the ground with the ring bound and all that stuff. So that will make it even more helpful for groups trying to train or people trying to train.
Joe, what else would you like to mention or talk about that you have going on or future projects or anything that you would just like to let everybody know about?
All right. Well, let me first talk about the charity that we run, and then I will talk about a big event we're going to have out here this summer. So first of all, we are involved with the Northwest Montana Veterans Food Pantry. You can assist them in lots of ways. We give out food to veterans who are at risk, just to try to help them out. There's a lot of homeless veterans in Montana. There's a higher percentage per capita of veterans in Montana. We don't really know why that is. Probably because people have lived so rough their life. They're like, let me see what the rest of the world is like. I don't know. We have a lot of veterans around here, and we try to serve them. We give them every year we hold an event called the Stand Down where we give out new sleeping bags, cold weather gear, everything. A lot of that's driven by donations from the Department of Defense. They send us a trailer load of military surplus to hand out. But throughout the year, we give out food all year long. And we get a little bit of a hand from that from the game wardens. They bring us confiscated deer and elk that they've taken from people. And we process that and put it in packages. But the camp that we have here is 100% donation driven. And you can go to veteranscampponderosa.org and check out the camp. And you can make a donation right there to Camp Ponderosa if you want to help us out in our mission. We are struggling a little bit because this year we've had to spend a lot of money on repairing damage from the 2 windstorms. So if you want to help, please do. The other thing we have coming up is July 24th through the 26th. We are hosting Mountain Readiness West. Mountain Readiness is a preparedness and homesteading expo that's been operating out of North Carolina for a couple of years. They have a lot of speakers coming who will teach you about different things like processing chickens. We got some guys who are going to teach you how to make sausage from elk or venison. We're going to have people making knives. We got all kinds of things. We got first aid classes. guys talking about how to vet out members of your group, just a variety of things. The whole Preparedness and Homesteading Expo going to be hosted right here at Camp Ponderosa, July 26th to the 28th. You can find out about that at mountainreadiness.com. And if you use code WISDOM5, you will save 5% on your tickets. You can camp right here on site. And we're going to have classes before and after that, like War Lizard Tactical is coming out the weekend before to do a pistol class. I've got some guys doing wilderness first aid and another guy doing just basic preparedness first aid. Lots of classes and things around that whole late July timeframe. And it's going to be a great time. So come and check that out.
Hey, Joe, I just got on the veteranscampponderosa.org. Is that a very impressive facility? Is that yours? Do you own that?
It's owned by a charity, and I am a board member on that charity. So not a board member. I'm a company officer on the charity that does that. And the charity owns it, and I manage it for them. And we really, you can come here and camp all year long, anytime you want. We're trying to make it a place for like-minded individuals, folks who are into preparedness and homesteading and all that kind of stuff. You can vacation here all year long, but we also run classes every weekend of the year out here on something. Last weekend, I did some basic pistol classes. This weekend, I'm doing fieldcraft. The weekend after that, I'm doing community security. We just have a ton of things that go on out here, so it's a great site.
So it's not just for veterans.
It's not just for veterans, but we do run veterans programs here. And veterans, y'all get a discount when you camp here. So we've got 8 RV sites. We've got some electrical hookups, but not a lot. But it's just a great spot in the middle of Flathead National Forest. We're about an hour and a half from Glacier National Park, which is one of the best national parks in the country. But we are indeed in the best grizzly bear habitat in the lower 48. So,
it's a very impressive facility.
Yeah, man, it's cool. I came here to teach a class a couple years ago. Me and NC Scout came out here. We did our spring training week, which we do every year now. But I fell in love with the place, and I talked with the owners, and they were like, hey, you guys bought us more people than we've ever had here. Would you like to help us run it? And I was like, 100%. And I wanted to get out of the People's Republic of Michigan anyway. So here I am.
I'm going to try to get up there. You said July 24th to 26th?
July 24th to the 26th, 100%.
Okay, I'm going to try. I'm going to look at my schedule and see if I can get up there.
If you do, we'll set you up a table and you can talk about your podcast to everybody.
Oh, nice.
And maybe even do a live episode. We're doing a live episode of our show here.
Oh, we'll talk about your show.
Right on. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at roughly 9 o'clock Eastern. I say roughly because some days we're early, some days we're late. On YouTube and Rumble, we run what's called the Council on Future Conflict. You can find them. The channel name on both is Future Conflict. And we talk about what's going on in the world. We take the left and right out of it and say, this is what's actually happening. This is how it impacts your life. And this is these are the actual facts rather than the spin. And we did one this morning. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Future Conflict. Check it out.
Yeah, it's definitely a good time. I'm a watcher myself.
All right, Joe, tell us how we can go and get a hold of those books.
You can find my books on Amazon. You just go search for Tactical Wisdom on Amazon. You can also find them at tactical-wisdom.com. I always say this, if you buy them from my website, you'll get them signed. If you buy them from Amazon, you'll get them fast. So I live in Montana, so when I mail books, it takes like 10 days for them to get anywhere. And the signature on my personalized books doesn't mean anything today, but if things go bad and I end up getting killed, it'll be at least $1.25 more. So that's a cool thing. But you can find me there at tactical-wisdom.com. I put out articles once a week on different topics. You can also find me on Twitter at DolioJ. And I have a $5 a month locals page where we do some other training topics and training videos. And we do a lot of other article reviews, and we're doing a book study and all kinds of neat stuff on that. And that's tacticalwisdom.locals.com.
But wait, I have to ask one question. It's been burning this whole time. How can I get some stick figure art from you, Joe?
So listen, the stick figure art, generally people get it when randomly when they buy a book from my website. Sometimes I decide to just draw it, or when it's somebody I know and have interacted with, I will draw a stick figure depiction of them. And listen, I already told you I'm gonna get you some special stick figure art, but it better get posted on some social media when I send it. My art is terrible, but it is unique.
Art is in the eye of the beholder, I think. So
I think he's got those stick figures carved in a wall inside of a cave up in Montana somewhere.
You know, I haven't yet, but I think that's not a bad idea.
Joe, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's really been an honor. Anytime we can get you back on here, we would love to do that. There's so much more tactical wisdom we can learn from you.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. I'm glad to be here.
My prepper brothers and sisters. Wow, Joe Dolio, what an honor to have him with us, man. He's got so much experience in the preparedness and survival world. You know, his book series, Tactical Wisdom, is a must-have. You got to have them. I've got them, Dave's got them, Jeremy's got them, everybody's got them. You got to get this book series. Start with the first one or get them all. Doesn't matter, but go ahead and get them. Tactical Wisdom series are 5 books designed to serve as field manuals. They're small enough to fit in your packs. So go ahead and get them into your kit right away. Once again, thank you, Joe, for coming on the show with us. Stay prepped, stay happy. Thanks for listening, and good night.